A little bit about Alexandra. Alexandra Kleinfeld is the founder of Kleinfeld Law Firm, PLLC. She operates in Lee County and she focuses on estate, trust, probate, family, corporate, and immigration law. In addition to her litigation and transactional practice, Attorney Kleinfeld is an alternative dispute resolution professional. She holds a Florida Supreme Court certification in family and county mediation, and she is a Florida Supreme Court qualified arbitrator as well. She has a special training in elder mediation and provides conflict resolution and problem-solving services. She's a member of the Lbaugh and the Florida Bar, and she frequently presents on topics of interest of Florida litigators and ADR professionals. I see that we are now, the recording button is on, so I just want to briefly mention that we are recording, and this will be available in the future on the Lbaugh YouTube channel. Turning over to you, Alexandra. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anne. Thank you, Lauren, and the Lee County Bar Association for actually having me and hosting this event today. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we talk about elder mediation today. Most of us are mediators ourselves, so we know how mediation normally works, and we are more familiar with family, circuit, county, dependency, and even appellate mediation processes. However, very few of us are involved or even know about elder mediation. And one reason is probably that elder mediation is really completely voluntary. It's not court mandated, at least as of now. Maybe we will see it in the future. So this is really a topic and a process that we have to educate people about. Is it about talking to other attorneys, other professionals like healthcare professionals, but also clients if we are attorneys, to make them aware if there's a family dispute, there is a way to avoid litigation and maybe talk to each other at one table and discuss any family disputes. So we know that in the meantime, we all grow older, which is very nice. However, that also brings along different aspects of life that maybe our grandparents didn't experience. However, we have to deal with different and new challenges, also life events that come up and transitions, and also we have to cope with losses. When we get older, we might have more difficulties to actually cope with these changes and get the help that we need. Maybe we are scared to ask others for help, but we really should work on that and tell everyone, you don't have to be scared. There's a way. You always can seek help. Some situations might actually create disagreement within one family setting. So to get a better understanding about the concept of family or of elder mediation in family disputes, we take a look at what is elder mediation. So elder mediation is a forum for family discussion. It's using a third-party neutral mediator who's overlooking the conversation within the family. It's a complete private and voluntary process. Family members are encouraged to express concerns and interests, their desires and wishes, and they should do so without any interference. So every participant has to understand that they can talk freely, they are not to interrupt anybody, and they shouldn't make any comments if one of the other family members expresses their desires and wishes. It's an informal meeting setting, so we do everything that the participants feel welcome, that they feel comfortable, so they don't necessarily have to come in a suit or anything. It's the way they feel comfortable and like to dress on a normal occasion. The location of the meeting differs, so it really should suit the family needs. It could be in a private home, it could be in the mediator's office, it could be in a senior living facility, but also virtual, and you can always combine things. So some people might live in a different state or even in a different town, they are unable to attend in person. So you can, with technology, just have them jump in virtually like we do right now on Zoom, and have them also together with the other families. So then, of course, elder mediation should settle disputes amongst family members. The family should develop their own solution that reflects their unique situation. They should develop communication strategies, assisting the family to successfully work together in making any future decisions. The family is cooperating instead of following an adversarial process. Like if they go to court, normally the judge will tell them what to do, but with the mediation process, they are able to make the decision and determine the outcome. It's also a possibility to actually repair restrained relationships amongst family members. And it's a great tool to avoid litigation, which even may destroy already fragile family relationships. It can also cut litigation short if litigation already has started. Normally, the courts take away control from people who should be involved in the process of finding a suitable solution. And with the elder mediation process, the entire family, whoever wants to be involved, can be involved. So that makes it probably a little bit easier for the older person as well as for the family members. While the court decides any case using the law, which often does not satisfy the family situation, the family doesn't have to necessarily abide by the law. Of course, there are certain aspects. However, whatever they decide and follow through, that's good. Then, of course, one of the participants normally is an older adult. Since we are talking about elder mediation, there are conflicts, there are issues with maybe a parent or an uncle or whomever is already an older adult. And then, of course, the issue in dispute concerns this older adult. So elder mediation gives families control over the process of dealing with family issues and its outcome. And elder mediation is emotionally and financially less draining than litigation. So also what's, I would say, a different concept to other mediation settings is that normally in elder mediation, you have co-mediators. Because you're dealing with a larger group of people, sometimes you have the entire family, which might consist of 6, 8, 10 people. So you should have a co-mediator and you share the work. And the co-mediator, so you can have a lawyer and a healthcare professional, or 2 lawyers, 2 healthcare professionals. So it really should balance the situation of the family. So most of the time, it really makes sense to have 1 lawyer, 1 healthcare professional or social worker involved to help the family with all aspects of the dispute. So it's really a great tool. You can share the work, and of course, you provide additional services. So the process of elder mediation is in different phases. So in phase 1, of course, you have to take you have the intake. So the mediator, or if you have an intake person, will speak to one of the family members or the referring professional of what's going on. The mediator will explain the principles and the process of the elder mediation. She will request general information. Probably it's also a good idea to already review the rates and begin to determine how the case should be handled. But in theory, these conversations do not include discussions about the conflict itself. It's just getting an overview about the situation. So then we do enter phase 2, and this is also different to other mediation processes. You do have private sessions with each participant. So, and this is where also the co-mediator comes into play, because if you have 6 people attending the mediation, then it's very time consuming to talk to 6 people if you're just one mediator. So you can split up the group and each one takes 3 of the participants, and you will actually have those private sessions with each participant by phone. Of course, the older adult, you should try to meet in person if possible, but it's really requires more sessions, different sessions with each participant. So you also discuss any accommodation that will be required if you meet all together. You already screen for abuse or neglect. You prepare each client for a productive negotiation that, yes, of course, you want what's best for the parent. However, each child might have a different view of what's best for the parent, so that they try to focus on really the parent and not their own interest of what's better for them. So it's really, they have to understand that there are negotiations, there has to be a compromise, in order to have a successful mediation process. So then you also might want to meet with attorneys or other advisors as appropriate that are involved in the case, and that will participate in the mediation itself as well. Then in phase 3, you actually prepare for the meeting, and that's mainly reviewing your notes, reviewing the documents you might have received, and also, of course, meet with your co-mediator and discuss the case and already get an outline for the session. So then phase 4 is basically the main, the main phase of the elder mediation process, because that is the joint family session, or joint family meeting, if you want to say so. This will include all participants, and again, they can be in person, it can be virtual, so whatever suits the family best. And the focus should really be on identifying the interests and facilitating an understanding between the parties. With your co-mediator in phase 3 for the preparation, you should already also have prepared like a agenda or topic list, and you will review this topic list, which you actually derive from your private sessions with each participant. And then you will have to approve it with all together in the joint session to tell them, okay, so this is what we have learned, and these are the topics that we actually think are most important to you. Do you agree with that? So then you can move on. And you should consider as the mediator to encourage all parties to share their concerns, to share their wishes, to share their goals, in order to have a really fruitful discussion. If you come to if you and the participants come to an understanding or agreement, and they want to put it in writing, you can offer to help them draft the agreement with the language they would like to put in. Again, with elder mediation, because it's not court mandated, you don't necessarily have to put everything in writing, but if they want to have an agreement in writing, you should help them and assist them in putting it together. So, and then phase 5, you should follow up. So if they wanted a memorandum of understanding or even a meeting summary, if they requested that, you prepare it and you send it to them and ask if there's any other question, if they have anything that they will want to discuss, or if they might even want to continue with a mediation session. That's also one thing. As you can already see, you have private sessions, so it will take a while. Elder mediation is not done within one day. And sometimes even phase 4, the joint family sessions, might continue over maybe 2, 3, or 4 sessions. So it's an entire process. So then we go to the principles of elder mediation. And the principles, of course, are, as in other mediation settings, confidentiality. So sometimes maybe parties may not wish to maintain confidentiality. They can actually set it up in an agreement that should be signed before beginning with a joint session. Also, we have a lot of people attending. So we have guardians that might be present. We have other non-parties that could be present. For example, the spouses of the children, professionals, other family members, or even friends. So it's more like a party sometimes than actually a mediation setting, in a sense that we know it. Then one thing is also, of course, the voluntary participation. Maybe some of the children or other family members involved may not even wish to participate, and you cannot force them. It's voluntary. If they don't want to participate, that is on them. If the other family members still wish to continue, that's fine. But you might also want to understand why some of the parties do not want to participate in such a joint session. It could be because they are insecure or they are concerned of disputes. And sometimes they even think, well, we will be unable to find a solution anyway, so why should I waste my time? Then also neutrality, that's common for us. We are well aware with that. The mediator should always be a neutral third person. But in this setting, you still have to really ensure that the elder person is able to keep self-determination. I think that's even more true than in other mediation settings, because there's a risk of abuse even from participation in the mediation itself. For example, maybe the older adult feels pressured into giving up legal rights, or the elder mediator has an ethical responsibility to ensure that this does not occur, and that during the mediation process, the legal rights and autonomy of the older adult is preserved. So I think that's really very important. Then also we do have the informed consent. However, as with maybe family mediations, in this mediation setting, financial information may be withheld. So it could be by the parent, by the child, by the sibling, that they don't want the others to know about the finances. And the full disclosure is not required in this setting. So that's really a difference in regard to other mediations. Sometimes it's also one thing in regard to capacity. Capacity can be limited in some areas. For example, that one of the participants lacks a legal understanding. However, the person is completely okay for everything else and does understand everything else. Then we do have the self-determination, and that's where we really have to be aware of coercion, abuse, and neglect. So in regard to other mediations, if you compare it, it's really like, okay, so who's at the table? We have a lot more people normally at the table in elder mediation. Then disclosure, we have full informed disclosure is required in other mediations, but not in elder mediation. And then we also have the difference in regard to the mediators, that normally we have co-mediators in elder mediation. So let's talk about the characteristics of elder mediation. As I've said before, elder mediation involves multiple parties with complex and often conflictual histories. So who is involved? It's normally parents, children, friends, caregivers, but also professionals like lawyers, financial advisors. And the conflict is about elder care responsibilities and decisions within the family most of the time. And it's not only one issue that's being discussed, but there are numerous issues. Often accumulated and the entire extended family may be involved in this dispute. And yes, so another characteristics as mentioned is the multiple issues. There is stress or maybe loss and change in circumstances as we age. So these are some of the issues that can be involved in elder mediation. Then we also have to look at the complicated interpersonal dynamics. And that's most of the time between vulnerable adults and other participants, but sometimes even with other family members as well. And we probably know that some families have long-standing family alliances where family members take the position of another family member regardless of the issue and regardless of what they really think. There could also be historical resentments where one sibling believes the parent favored another sibling during the entire lifetime, and the pattern of behavior resulting from this resentment can of course appear and come up in mediation. There are hidden family hierarchies, with one family member held in high esteem, while another is the so-called black sheep of the family. And the family members participating in mediation may have personal problems. They could actually be drug addicts, or maybe they're chronically unemployed, with the family having developed patterns of relating to hide or manage these issues. So then we also have elder abuse. Sometimes the participants might experience, or at least one of them might experience elder abuse. And elder abuse refers to situations where an older adult is experiencing serious harm through the actions of another person. The abuse can be physical, it can be sexual, financial, or emotional, and may also include neglect. And we, as mediators, have the obligation to report any elder abuse when we discover it. So the caucus could also be a little bit different than in other family mediation settings or circuit settings, because we could have only private conversations with just one of the family members during the joint session. We could also have more than just one participant we would like to talk to in private. So it's really depending on the family dynamics and the mediation process to see if we have to caucus in smaller groups or even individually. So how can elder mediation help families? So here are some of the situations where actually elder mediation could help families. And that's because families often like to avoid discussing these issues. They might disagree on these issues or just ignore issues. And I think right now the most urging issue people try to avoid talking about is the aging parents' abilities and freedoms. So it can be just dad driving a car. And you think, well, probably dad shouldn't drive the car anymore because he has issues with his eyes or something else, a medical condition that he shouldn't drive anymore. But dad is stubborn because dad wants his freedom and still be able to go anywhere he wants and when he wants without relying on somebody else. It's also concerning social relationships and scheduling appointments. So this is what could happen when aging parents are no longer able to deal with these things, that it's time to talk. Then we have health, medical, and personal care decisions. It's about what treatment is right, who should make such decisions. You should share your concerns normally. Then also doctor's visits, who is taking mom, dad to the doctor, picking up. Then also talk about maybe home care, else medication management, end of life, burial and funeral decisions. So these are topics that can lead to conflicts in family, even leaving some of the members not talking to each other anymore. Then financial decisions is one of the most common issues of the family disputes. So it's like discussing, is mom, is dad still able to make financial decisions, paying ongoing expenses? Should somebody else actually do that and pay for the parents' daily living, housing, medical needs, and caregiving? How much money is actually available for the care? Then also maybe look into investment, tax planning, insurance, major assets, long-term care insurance. And then really the question is, okay, so if mom or dad or both are unable to really handle all of those things anymore, who should be appointed? Who is the best person? And most of the time parents like to choose the child they might like best, even though of course no parent has a child they like best. They love everyone equally. So, but still, the other sibling might think that mom or dad always liked brother, sister better, and that's why they chose him or her to make the financial decisions, even though this person is completely incapable of handling that. So this really is one situation where families can break apart. Then we do have housing choices. Parents normally are resentful to leave their own home. They have lived there for I don't know how many years. They know where everything is. They have their neighbors. They have everything around them. So they do want to stay at home. However, maybe it becomes necessary that they cannot stay at home anymore by themselves. So you have to make a decision as a family if staying in the home really works and what you can do to support your parent. Or maybe assisted living facility is necessary, even a nursing home. Maybe they can figure out, okay, is it better that mom or dad lives with one of the family members if they can all agree? And of course, mom or dad can agree. And then what's with the house? Do we sell the house? What are we going to do with the house? So these are things that should be discussed. And if the family is unable to do it in a friendly way by themselves, elder mediation can certainly help. Then there are caregiving concerns and support among family members. It's again the question, okay, should mom or dad stay at home and one of the children is actually taking care of mom and dad, or do we hire someone who maybe comes in part-time to help mom and dad? Things like that. Then another big concern is really inheritance, expectations, and disputes. So if the caregiving child expects normally a higher share to be compensated for the time and care provided by the parent, however, the other sibling probably doesn't feel the same way and just argues, well, just because you took care of mom or dad, why do you get more? You were able to maybe live in the house with mom and dad during that time. So another issue is in inheritance cases that the house is left to all three children in equal shares, but one cannot afford to maintain, the other doesn't want the house, and the third child would like to buy out to siblings but doesn't have the money. We have will contests where maybe one of the children or other beneficiaries argues that, well, mom or dad was under duress, or so-and-so used undue influence and to try to get what they want. There's also the issue about parents' contribution to one's child education or to maybe grandchildren's education that can come up. And another issue could arise if one child has a medical issue and therefore expects extra security. Then we have guardianship cases. Maybe some of the guardianship cases actually could be prevented if the family talks to each other. And that's because the parent might be able to still handle one aspect of life while having difficulties in dealing with others. So maybe mom and dad are unable to really do the finances. They just are not able to grasp all the numbers anymore and understand that. However, they are perfectly fine in making medical decisions and getting their pills every day. So they don't really need a guardian for everything. They just need someone to help them with the finances. Of course, sibling rivalry, as I mentioned before, that's a great topic because then it comes up, well, dad always loved you, he never loved me. And as well as, well, I took care of mom while you were having fun and enjoying life. So these are conflicts that I guess a lot of families actually experience, but they should talk about it. But there could also be a conflict with a care provider about treatment or billing that can go to mediation instead of filing a claim with the court. So let's see, I do have some scenarios. I prepared some scenarios to take a better look at what it really means to involve elder mediation in a family case. And here we have the Benson family, and Elizabeth and William Benson, the parents are both deceased. So we have the daughter, Jill, who's 59. She's a widow. She has 3 adult children. She's living in Phoenix, Arizona, and is a college professor. Then we have the middle son, Jack, 57, married to Amanda, 2 adult children, lives in Miami, and he's the CEO of a big company. And the youngest son, Robert, 55, and he's basically more or less out of the picture anyways. So mom and dad died. They had a very stunning seaside villa in Naples, Florida, built by their grandfather as a family retreat. And Jill, Jack, and Robert actually inherited it in equal shares. So the middle sibling, Jack, bought Robert's 1/3 share, so that Jack now owns 2/3 and Jill owns 1/3 of the villa. Robert actually offered to sell his share in equal shares to both siblings, but Jill just didn't have the money. Because Jack works as a CEO of a successful company, he had enough money and was able to buy Robert out. So even though Robert doesn't own any share of the villa anymore, Jack was generous enough to grant Robert continued use of the villa during Jack's time. So Jack and his adult children are living in Miami and the surrounding area. They are pretty close by to Naples. So it made sense that Jack stepped up and said, well, I'm going to manage the property, taking care of everything if something comes up. However, because Jack's work responsibilities don't really allow for him to plan the use of the villa much in advance, and he really likes to meet with his children and friends at the villa in Naples on short notice, that leaves Jill a little bit frustrated because Jill and her children are living in Arizona and other states, and they can basically only use the villa during the summer and during school holidays with much advanced planning. Because of the ownership situation, Jill pays 1/3 of property taxes and maintenance of the villa. As I mentioned, Jack manages the villa, and Jill expects to use the villa 1/3 of the time and scheduled in 1 year in advance. So frictions actually arose because of the use and because Jack also wants to renovate and update the villa at this time. However, this would require substantial expense because of coastal zoning and building restrictions, and Jill just doesn't have the money. She's happy with the villa as is, and she doesn't think it's really necessary. She just cannot afford to pay 1/3 of Jack's proposed remodeling plans, does not trust Jack's taste. And so the tensions over the scheduling and remodeling actually left Jill and Jack not speaking to each other anymore. However, Jack wrote Jill that he would like to buy her out, which actually the villa is valued at millions of dollars, or Jack would pay all of the remodeling costs and allocate Jill's 1/3 portion of use of her. So they both talked to an attorney. And the attorney said, well, legal petition is really messy, expensive, and the tax implications will apply to both of you. And during the conversations, the attorneys learned that both want to hold on to the family heritage, pass it on to their children and grandchildren, and they also have fond memories associated with the villa. So one of the attorneys actually suggests, well, maybe it's a good idea to talk to a family mediator. And during the individual sessions, the mediator learned that Jack doesn't feel appreciated by Jill for saving the villa from any outside ownership, and also granting Robert the continued use of the villa, as well as his time-consuming work in managing and maintaining the villa. And Jack doesn't even charge for all of this work. Jack also feels burdened by providing notice of his use months in advance for the summer. Jill, on the other hand, feels that Jack pushed Robert to sell him his share and did not pay the full value. Jill thinks that Jack enjoys managing the villa and believes that Jack does not charge her correctly for her expenses. Jill is just frustrated she feels disadvantaged, being unable to plan any family gatherings at least 6 months in advance because Jack doesn't want to plan ahead. So there's also an underlying issue that Jill felt that their father, William, supported Jack to become successful, but did not support Jill at all. So here we really have very high tensions within the family, and it's not only involving Jill and Jack, it also involves the entire family consisting of children and grandchildren, and even Robert, who still is able to use the villa. So this really is a situation where, well, even though they don't talk to each other, it's probably a good idea to go to family mediation, have these individual sessions, talk to the kids, and depending on how old the grandchildren are, also talk to the grandchildren and see what they want. And this way to avoid any legal petition or any other legal proceeding. Then we do have the Griffin family. We have the mother, Susan, who is 74. She's widowed, diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She lives in Fort Myers. Then son Ben is married to Andrea, 2 children. He lives in New York. The daughter, Rachel, who's married to Michael, they have 1 child. She lives in Fort Myers, close to her mother. And then we have Susan's sister, Peggy, who lives in Cape Coral. And so Susan lives on her own at this moment. After the death of her husband 3 years ago, she's still coping. Even though her family realized that Susan seems to forget things at times, they still blame it on the father's death. However, one day Susan is involved in a car accident. She has to be treated at the local hospital. While she's being treated, the doctor discovers Susan's cognitive issues and make tests. Susan is being diagnosed with Alzheimer's. The hospital doctors recommends to her family that a guardian should be appointed to handle Susan's health care as well as financial needs. Susan, as I mentioned, has the 2 children, Ben and Rachel, and her sister Peggy, to whom Susan has a very close relationship. When Rachel and Peggy cannot agree who would handle Susan's affairs, they each individually file an application seeking to be appointed her guardian, which is really not helpful. There's just no agreement among the family as to who should be appointed. So the already previously difficult situation becomes even more hostile. And due to the conflict among the family members, the probate court appoints an independent attorney to serve as guardian for Susan, both person and estate. And the court reasons that the conflict between the family will not serve Susan's best interest. So even though the family itself wasn't able to talk to each other, it probably would have helped if they have chosen a family mediator to talk to and see what they each want. I mean, they all want the best interest of Susan, and then within the conversation and within the meeting to see, okay, so who is able to step up for health and who is able to step up for finances. So, but we also, so these are already situations we just discussed showing that there's already a conflict existing within the family, but we can also use elder mediation to prevent any family feuds. So we do have the Fisher family, and we have Tom, the dad. He's 83 years old, retired. He's a widower, and so he has 2 daughters, adult daughters. They are both married. They have children. Katie lives a little bit closer to dad. Lily lives further away. And they still are in contact with dad. They are checking in on dad every time. Katie, of course, can stop by at the house and check on dad. Lily is calling dad every day. And just to make sure, because Tom is living by himself in a single family home, to see if everything is okay. And so far, he had no issues. He's taking care of the lawn. He does minor repairs around the house. He just seems to enjoy life. So the older daughter, Katie, who lives about 20 minutes from Tom, checks in on him and maybe drops off food when she cooked something, see if she needs anything, see if Tom needs anything else. And lately, due to their constant contact with Tom, Katie and Lily became concerned about Tom's health and behavior. While Tom seems mentally to be in great shape, he is able to handle his finances, his health starts to decline a little bit. It looks like he has trouble hearing, his eyesight might not be the best anymore. So they really are worried that things might worsen. So he also seems to forget maybe appointments that he had scheduled with doctors. One time he forgot that he turned on the stove and left it running. Luckily, nothing really happened, but still they talked about these observations with each other and tried to talk to Tom about it, but he's just very stubborn, difficult, and doesn't want to talk about it at this time. Again, this is a situation where even though Tom doesn't really want to talk about it with his children, it could be really a good idea to involve a family, an elder mediator, to see what Tom's concerns are. He's probably afraid they want to take away his freedom, maybe some of his rights. So in order to avoid and prevent any family issues and disputes, it probably is really a good idea to sit at a table together and work things out and make life better for Tom and to give Katie and Lily peace of mind. So we also have the Summer family. We have the father, Stanley. We have 3 adult children. So Stanley lives alone after his wife, Catherine, died. They had a 4-bedroom house in Estero. Emily and Caroline have been very involved in Catherine's care, while Thomas was only able to provide support by phone since he's living further away. And while Stanley considers himself very independent, although he realizes that his eyesight is failing and he sometimes forgets to take his medicine for high blood pressure and diabetes, he still thinks he doesn't have to worry about anything anymore. However, Stanley recently got lost on his way home running errands. So that's one concern. He also mainly lives from frozen dinners and pasta. He prefers living at home. Emily and Caroline love their father. They respect his needs for independence, but are just uncomfortable with the thought of their father living alone. Emily lives about 20 minutes away, but considering her work and her own family with 2 teenage children, she cannot check on Stanley every day. And Emily holds a durable power of attorney for Stanley and manages his finances, but she just has a lot going on. So she and her husband were thinking to maybe renovate the house, add another bedroom for Stanley to come in and live with them. Caroline, who lives about 4 hours away in Orlando, they actually have a guest house at their home. So they are thinking about, well, dad can live with us. The problem is they do have to consider what Stanley wants. So they cannot just make the decision, dad lives with me, or no, dad lives with us. They should involve Stanley within that decision making. So it's also really a good idea to talk to each other. If they are unable as a family to come together, involve an elder mediator to get the insight of everyone who's involved individually, and then come together and talk about it together, making a decision with which Stanley is able to live and he likes, and not just making a decision without considering his concerns or his wishes. So the benefits of elder mediation is clearly that it's a confidential forum for all parties. It's it's a forum where everyone will be heard. They should all listen to each other, even though I know it's sometimes difficult. However, they all have the possibility to voice their concerns, to voice their issues, and to be heard. It's also one of the benefits that the rights and integrity of the older adult is being protected. So the elder mediator makes sure that nothing will be decided over the head of the older adult, of the parent, but the parent will be heard as well. Then we have also, as one of the benefits, it preserves family relationships. So it's always better to talk to each other than going to court. The family itself develops a flexible and creative solution that each family members can agree to, is happy with, and works for everyone. And of course, another benefit of elder mediation is that it's cost and time saving compared to any litigation. So the main thing, I guess, in elder mediation, or actually dealing with any older adult, is to acknowledge changes in the family structure. And this could be retirement. Mom or dad retires and they have to deal with that situation. It's different. They maybe were the head of the department, and now all of a sudden they just lose everything. It's just very difficult. So maybe it's a good idea to suggest that mom or dad should volunteer, or maybe look for another meaningful activity to not feel lost and not feel welcomed anymore, and gain a social position again. Of course, another change is always the death of the spouse. And this is, I guess, one of the most difficult changes in life. And the entire family should really work together and help mom or dad to deal with that situation and cope. And then we have physical, emotional, or mental decline when we grow older. There are changes in vision, hearing, or other senses. We process and retrieve information differently when we are aging. It takes longer to remember things. We are more stressed in certain situations, but we can also develop depression based on the changes we are occurring. And of course, there is also the possibility that we develop dementia or even get Alzheimer's. Of course, there are also financial concerns when we get older. We are not working anymore, so we don't have that regular income. And it's maybe reduced on what we get due to the retirement. So we do feel concerned about our financial security. So, potential outcomes of elder mediation. And this is basically wrapping up everything. So the potential outcome, of course, is the family unity. The elder mediation process supports families to come together, discuss issues in a neutral setting where everyone can be heard and feels safe. It also, the family unity provides that the family reaches a solution together, and the unity will even be deepened, and the relationships within that family will be deepened through the mediation process. We do have communication strategies for the future that are developed during the mediation process, and the family can take away. So it's the elder mediation actually shows the families the possibility to talk to each other and reach a solution without actually fighting with each other. This concept can be used in the future for any informal family meetings. However, if they feel they should come back to a mediation, then they always can come back and discuss everything. Then also, of course, potential outcome is a possible settlement agreement, which is not legally binding. However, it offers guidelines for all family members to follow that are involved in the process. So this is the end of the presentation, and I hope I was able to provide you with some information, some insight about elder mediation, and to provide information to others you encounter and come about. I'm open for any questions. You can always email me if you don't have any questions right now. The email address is in the slide. So if at any point you want to reach out, please feel free to reach out.
I had a question, Alexandra. Do you think that it's, I'm sorry, let me turn with you. Do you think it's possible that in the future this will be a separate certification, or do you think that that's, we don't really know right now, but what's your opinion?
Even as of last year, I've already heard that the Florida Bar is actually looking into that and making it a rule that they want to implement mandatory elder mediation in certain probate cases, guardianship cases. So it probably is a good tool and helps the courts out as well. Sometimes I would say even elder mediation doesn't help the family because, again, you have to be open-minded. And some people, even as in our other mediation settings, in family circuit, juvenile cases, they are not open-minded. If they don't want to come to an agreement, they just don't want to come to an agreement, however hard you try. So, but still, some people don't even know about mediation at all. So it can be a great tool if it becomes mandatory as well in those cases.
Thank you. Thank you. It was an excellent presentation, and I'm sure you've clarified a lot of issues about a subject that is kind of a really complex subject. And I know you spent a lot of time putting these together, so I'm sure we all want to thank you for doing this. And it's really excellent. And of course, it will be available on the Lbaugh YouTube channel for people that had a conflict and could not attend. I have been asked by the local bar, by Lauren, our wonderful executive director, to let everybody know that on the 27th, we have a shrimp boil from noon to 3. And then on April 16th, there's a Baker Act member luncheon CLE between noon and 1. And that night, there's the second annual downtown bash. Of course, we have more CLEs coming up in April and May. That really concludes everything I had to say. And once again, Alexandra, great job.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate it that you actually had me present today.
Very helpful, very helpful. Well, at this point, I think we're done. And thank you again. And see you at the next CLE, I hope.
Yes, thank you. You all take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.